So we got another post-punk, new wave, whatever you want to call it, 80s.
1981.
1981 record coming up. Who's that?
And this one is not a game changer. It didn't change the world.
No.
But I picked it because it just happens to be one of my favorite records of all time. And that would be the second record by the Psychedelic Furs, which is titled Talk, Talk, Talk.
This is another one that I did not hear all the way through until you mentioned it to me. And I talked to some friends about it. They're like, oh, God, yeah, our friend Dougie was like, God, love you, such a good record. Oh, God,
and he's not wrong.
No, he isn't. Again, there's some sax in there that I just fell in love with immediately. I was familiar with Psychedelic Furs from Love My Way, which was probably 86 or something, and obviously from Pretty in Pink, which is actually on this record, although people from my generation will know it from the movie.
Which they re-recorded to make it more American radio friendly.
Right, so it's a different version.
I think it's a completely different recording.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Richard Butler's vocals, so very British. I mean, like, there's no mistaking it. But he has an interesting way when he writes these stanzas, like, they don't necessarily have to rhyme. It's like what ties these stanzas together is like how he says shit.
Right.
It's not easy to get away with that.
No.
Without being like, oh, this dude's a hack. No, I mean, like, he made it work, and it was really cool.
And he has a huge distinctive voice, too, because he's got, like, that cigarette rasp that just doesn't sound like anything else. Like, his vocals are very distinctive. Like, when you hear him sing, you instantly know that it's Butler.
Yeah, and of course, the Pretty in Pink thing, like, anything John Hughes in America is gonna impact, like, a whole generation of motherfuckers.
And
like,
still does.
Cross-generational, right?
Yeah.
Like, if that movie comes on, like, yeah, I'm watching it. I mean, are you kidding me?
Of course you gotta watch it.
So, Team Ducky, Team Blaine, where you at?
You know what? I feel like I definitely aligned myself with Team Ducky.
Really?
Yeah, I would have been that guy that rode my bike around the girl's house, around the block, over and over and over, trying to catch a glimpse of her.
I think I would have hated both of those motherfuckers because she wouldn't have been. I mean, Molly should have been hooking up with me, bro.
Well, that's true. That is. What was your character? What was your character in the movie?
I didn't exist in the movie. That's what made me so upset. Like I was like the neighbor, like, who lived behind her, but, like, you know, like kitty corner, like I could see her like through the backyard fences sometimes when she was taking out the trash, and she just didn't know I existed.
I don't want to know anybody that identified with Blaine.
Yeah, well, true.
That's not a name. That's a major appliance. No, I think anybody who, like, pined after a girl and you can never, it's like you get in that friend zone. I'm the king of the friend zone, so I definitely got the Ducky thing, the Ducky Dale thing.
He still didn't succeed.
But the interesting thing about that is, too, and now we're kind of getting off the subject we're staying on it, but we're kind of getting off it.
Right.
Initially, that movie ended up with her ending up with Ducky. Uh-huh. But when they showed it to audiences didn't want her to end up with Ducky. They wanted her to end up with Blaine, so they changed the ending.
What the fuck was with 1986 or whatever audiences that
I don't know, because the original ending, she ends up with Ducky.
No kidding.
Yeah, and the test audiences didn't like it, and that's why that's how it ended the way it did. They wanted her to end up with
They wanted
Blaine
some sort of, like, redemption for the douche,
I guess.
Is that a thing?
And then they throw in that thing with Christy Swanson at the end.
Oh yeah, she's winking at the door.
So Ducky still gets his in the end. All of a sudden he gets.
Yeah, and then the cameras turn off, and you realize that she was winking at the dude behind him. I mean, come on.
That's not a universe I want to live in. I want to think that Ducky and Christy Swanson character started dating. They probably didn't date for very long.
Yeah, right.
But I want to think they at least got together at least.
She's like, dude, get a car and up with a bike. But back to the record.
But I guess you bring it back around too, because speaking for, like, pining for girls, I mean, I feel like Talk, 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 other than a couple of songs, it really is a teen record. Like, every song is about girls. Like, from the very first time, the first song is Pretty in Pink. Mm-hmm. Caroline. I don't know if every song is about Caroline or if they're about different girls, but every single song is about pining for a girl or lusting after a girl. I mean, you can't get more obvious than songs like Into Like a Train, which I think is one of the best titled songs of all time.
Or I Just Want to Sleep With You.
That was good. That was the other one I mentioned. I Want to Sleep With You. You don't get more upfront.
I won't bring you flowers. I just want to sleep with you.
Exactly. And it's just great. But I love that. And going back to you talking about how much you loved saxophones.
Yeah.
Like, I think was the saxophone's name. His name was I can't remember his name. Duncan. Duncan Kilburn.
Ooh, Duncan.
Duncan Kilburn, and it's cool because it's almost like walls of saxophone.
Oh yeah.
It's not like saxophone in the traditional way that you hear saxophone. When the Psychedelic Furs first came out, and obviously we didn't have the internet, so I'm not sure if this is true. I remember reading something about the band that none of them had played an instrument before they started the band.
No kidding.
That they were all kind of given instruments and were told to learn how to play it, or they switched instruments until they found an instrument that they were comfortable with, and that's what they played.
All right.
And I feel like they're a great band because they really weren't trying to ape anybody. Although there are shades of other bands when you hear their stuff, but I feel like it's accidental. But the way that he plays saxophone is not, and I don't know, maybe he was a saxophone player before, I don't know. But the way he plays it, it's almost like an assault. It's almost like a sonic assault.
He's up front.
He's just playing this wall.
Yeah, it reminded me kind of like how Morphine, how like that sax is like a big integral part of the sound of the band. And Morphine was another one where like I'm like, oh crap, we could have done Cure for Pain.
Cure for Pain, yeah.
What a great record. But I mean, it had that feeling for me.
Sure it did.
These horns rule, and they're an important part of the song. They're not just an accent that they're going to put in a pop song because there's some dude with some brass, right? No, this was like a part of the band.
Yeah, and in different ways too, because Morphine had so much space, so the saxophone was obviously a much more integral part.
Oh yeah.
But I love the way Duncan plays, because again, it's like Chuck D cutting through the noise for his voice. I feel like that, like it's because a lot of this record is pretty in your face. It's kind of dense in a lot of places, and I love how his saxophone just cuts through all of that.
Right, and let it be known that this is the only podcast out right now that's taking a deep dive into Mr. Duncan Kilburn.
Duncan Kilburn, God love you.
Hashtag Duncan.
And he wasn't in the band for very long, because actually by the time the third record came out, when you're talking about Love My Way,
right,
pretty much the band had it was just at that point it was just Richard Butler, his brother Tim, and John Ashton, the guitar player. The other three guys were gone.
So we've got this sappy, beautiful teen lust record. You have to take a choice cut off of this record. What's it going to be?
Oh, I thought long and hard of it, because back in the day when I used to make mixtapes.
Ooh, here we go.
There were sometimes where I couldn't decide on a song, and I would listen to it, and I would end up listening to the whole record because I couldn't decide on a song.
Right.
But for this one, I have to go Into You Like a Train. I have to go for that song.
Right.
Because again, one of the best titles, rock song titles of all time.
Yeah, I can imagine him writing it.
Yeah, it's just great. It's like I'm into you like a train. It seems so obvious. Like it's amazing that no one thought of it before.
Right.
It's how obvious it is.
I know it.
You know, but
God, I love it when that happens.
Brilliant, though. I love it. So the Into You Like a Train is going to be the song that we will spotlight from that record.
Sweet. Do we have any more records in your stack?
Okay, I'm going to do one last.